Hello, everyone. My name is Mariana, and I'm a talent marketing specialist at Intellias. Glad you've joined us this evening and hope the information we prepared will be useful for you. While the rest of our participants are joining in, let me talk about Intellias a little bit more. We are a technology enabler for the world's biggest companies, interesting projects, international clients, global representation, and 8 development centers. We have more than 100 open vacancies, and that's what Intellias is about. We create unique software solutions for more than 2 billion people in the world with the help of 3,000 experienced specialists on board. And no matter how fast we grow, we always adhere to the people-first approach. So I invite you to visit our website, and who knows, maybe a career match will happen. And just a couple of technical issues. You can write your questions in the chat, and our speaker will answer them during the Q&A session. Also, please mind there will be 1 minute delay due to the YouTube streaming rules. Also, we will be grateful for your feedback. I will leave the link to feedback form in the chat later. That's all. Let's get started. I'd like to introduce you our speaker, Alexey Starvoitenko, engineering team lead at Intellias. Alexey, the stage is yours.
Okay, yeah, thanks a lot for this introduction as well. So nice to meet you, everyone. Today we will talk regarding quite interesting topic. I would say for some people can be a bit boring topic, and also I would say good for understanding. But yeah, we'll try at least like to go deeper, understand better some concepts, and hopefully for like some people it will be some like new information, some new things where you can get some inspiration. So today, as you see based on like our slide, yeah, like we will talk about the Node.js design patterns, and we'll try to cover like main patterns which are used like in general in JavaScript technologies and like Node.js itself. So during like our journey today, we will cover like next topics which you can like see on our screen. Yeah, like we are, I guess it's already clear. So we will go like through some like just benefits of design patterns, why like in general you should use them in your code base, why it's great for your implementation and so on. Yeah. Then we will cover some topics related to main types of design patterns, like why we have such types. So why you need to know these types of like design patterns, so how it's useful for you. Yeah, because like for me, I would say all the time, the main question was not to understand like, okay, like we have some design patterns, okay, like I need to learn it in theory and that's it. The main question and the main purpose is to understand like how we can improve our code base. So where we can improve our code base, where we can reuse design patterns. So when exactly we need to invest some time into code refactor and so on. And after, I would say, such information, like I would add several notes, just general like feedback regarding my experience of design patterns, because I have conducted a lot of interviews, and I would say like all the time there was really famous question. Okay, like you're asking me regarding design patterns, yeah, and how you use them in your projects and so on, because unfortunately quality of many software projects maybe not in the best condition. So in such case, yeah, like a lot of people usually try to get rid of any theory, any, I would say, software technical design concept, and just rely, okay, like on some implementation, some PLC, and that's all. And of course, provide some summary, like what you can like in general understand and should know like regarding design patterns. And for sure, I will try to respond on like your questions regarding like this topic. Feel free to ask me, especially like interested, also open for questions regarding like some practical experience all the time. It's really interesting. Yeah, like regarding theory, of course, you can also some search information. It's no problem at all. Okay, good. So let's move on, I guess. Yeah, like I will try to make it simplify, but if you haven't worked with abstractions and normal OOP in JavaScript, it will be not so easy to understand, I would say. Good. So let's just like cover initial topic and move into more interesting stuff. So first of all, about benefits. Yeah, like I would say one of the most important benefits is like reusability. So you created abstraction once, like you implemented approach one, and you can reuse this approach all the time, like for different modules. Once you will like extend your service, so it's really like a great benefit. Like also scalability. In such case, like once you work with some third-party integration, like maybe some external providers, and of course, like you can implement every time some specific integration and spend a lot of time into again like coding from scratch and so on. But with help of design patterns, like you can really create some unified interfaces. Use maybe a factory like or any other design pattern based on your purpose, and easily like based on same interface, just add some new like library, easily switch between them. Yeah, like and still you don't need to invest a lot of time into it. Yeah, like no refactor pain in such case. Also, flexibility, like I would say related to previous topic, what I have described. As in such case, yeah, like you don't rely like on some specifics, you rely more on abstractions. So in such case, you can like easily change your business logic without need like to move and recheck all interfaces that we have and so on. And last but not least, I think it's combined one, like in general code quality. To say that code quality it's all the time just you can see that code quality like all the time it just to easily check what's going on like with your code base, like it's quite good for visibility to read code. I would say it's a wider picture, and it's also like how everyone can understand like your code base, like how easily like you can make some adjustments in your business logic. Yeah, like maybe today you have one feature, like next day you need to change dramatically approach of business implementations and so on. Like, and for sure, I would say design patterns is really good stuff which you can help you to face and resolve such issues. Okay, so like, and regarding design patterns, all the time, usually like there are three main groups. Yeah, like it's, I would say, the most popular specification, but definitely like you can find some another one. However, let's like try to talk today regarding these three types, like creational, structural, and behavioral. Each of them, I would say, represents exactly when you need to use design pattern. So in which time, like for which purpose. Yeah, like I would say to group design pattern exactly by such types. It can be good for you also for understanding, yeah, because you can like really understand, okay, like right now, like I'm dealing with object creation. Yeah, like you need to go and check like some creational design patterns. Maybe you already know, maybe like you don't know, and just need to maybe make some research. So like at least you can, I would say, make your scope of research smaller, like not just, like round robin of 20 plus design patterns, but at least understand like where I can like make my research smaller a bit. So yeah, like, and I would say design patterns really everywhere. Like if you even haven't implemented some design patterns in your code base, it doesn't mean that you haven't used a design pattern at all. every time you use require in Node.js, every time you install like some package, some external package library, or you just use some framework as Express and so on, or maybe more complicated like as Nest or something like that, you use actually design pattern. Understand that you use it or not, it's another question, but definitely it's everywhere. I would say you haven't used design patterns only if you don't know, maybe create some really specific application and not just a regular web application. So let's move on a bit, and right now we can start with first type, the first category of such design patterns called creational. To simply understand what you're talking about, it's exactly which design pattern you can use once you make some initialization, creation of object. And maybe during this creation, you want to encapsulate this init process, and make object creation in more, I would say, more smart way. What I mean under smart way, you can create some class or prototype to use. Just put use some constructor, put parameters, make init, and that's it. But everything can be changed due to complexity. If you deal with a small amount of code base, honestly saying design pattern is something that not really important for you. And of course, design pattern, it will lead to many new abstractions, many new classes, many new other constructions, and so on. So maybe for simple cases, you don't need at all. But for some more complex stuff, it's really good to check out and understand what you can use, how you can resolve situation. And creational design patterns is exactly how to deal with complex object creation. Once you need to pass out of different parameters, or if you need some specific behavior during the creation of such objects. So it's everything related to creational design patterns. And let's start to look into some. I would say during presentation you will see different design patterns, and each of them you can see just a small overview of it, some purpose, why we need to use it, some benefits and disadvantages, so why it can be good, why it can be bad, maybe some note regarding Node.js usage, maybe it's used under the hood, or for which purpose, for instance, you can use. And feel free to explore just some code sample. I attached just some links to GIST where you can see some placeholder of such usage, and I wouldn't go to every example during our presentation, but at least for some maybe more interesting, I will describe for sure. So let's start from first creational design pattern called builder. So I would say one of the most important stuff that once you create some object, you can separate how this object is constructed and how it's visualized. What I mean under construction. In some cases, you can have maybe a really quite big class, with a lot of properties. Big object should be created, maybe a lot of data parameters should be passed, and in such case you need to understand how I can do it in the better way, because maybe in some case you can just misplace parameters, maybe I don't know, you just skip something or made it and made some small mistake, or maybe you have two numbers and you just misplace these numbers, and it caused to huge problem in terms of business logic. So a main purpose of builder design pattern just to make this approach more visible, more understandable for you, so you can easily track what's going on. Exactly, in such case you will achieve this separation. You will construct these objects step by step. For instance, you create some transaction, and you say I add some user info to such transaction. Then I add age, like not age, but maybe amount, maybe some data information, and so on. And you can really see in terms of code base what's going on, and how you enrich this object, and not just you created something that you don't understand what you have done. And case, for instance, like transaction management, like other complex business entities. And if we go to small gist, you can check. So in general, this one is really simple. So in such way, we have some class called transaction, which actually representation of transaction, in such case, just some print details, not really useful and not, I would say, to real business logic, but in real world, you will have different formatters, different other stuff. And in such case, even in terms of these parameters, still you need to pass not a lot, but some of them. And to this purpose, to make it more visible, you can have builder, which will encapsulate your logic related to transaction creation. So it will have exactly methods related to set amounts and date, set participants of such transaction description, and so on. So just sample methods can be really huge amount and more complex. So in such case, you just create some kind of transaction builder, which will make some initialization. So you create a builder, and then you work with such builder. So, make, for instance, set amounts, set participants, a description, and finally build. After it, you will work with regular initialized object, and that's it. But exactly once you made the structure, you can use builder. I would say something similar approach is used in query builders. Maybe someone worked with connects, and it's near the same. Once you need to make some adjustments in terms of query, maybe add one method to another method, and so on, just and create some complex SQL query. You can use query builder, and exactly it will build for you some behavior. In that case, it's query. In our case, it will build transaction. So I would say quite useful stuff for complex entities. Let's move on. Singleton, on Singleton, I will not spend a lot of time, because I guess all engineers aware of Singleton, from trainee level to expert level. So all the time, you use require Node.js models, for instance. It has Singleton under the hood. So if you will export some object, it means that during the require, you will reuse this object. All the time it will be same reference. So for Singleton, of course, I would say it's not some classical Singleton as in C++ language or some another, but still the main purpose is that you can have some single instance for connection management or configuration management, when you want to have some centralized place where you will establish connection, and you understand which amount of connection you have made. You created some pool of connections, but all the time, in general connection manager, it will be only one instance, and there can't be that maybe in one time you will have some conflict. But there are also some problems, not I would say so urgent and also problematic, but not maybe the best way to have. So of course, in such case, you can have your abstraction as a global object, and also it can lead to some problems with testing. So you need also to count on it. But quite useful approach used to Node.js from the box, and especially for database connections management, for configurations, caching, and so on, quite useful pattern. And I guess everyone understands and worked a bit or more with Singleton. So let's move on. I think this one not so interesting. like factory. Yeah, like we have factory method, we have like abstract factory, but today, like let's just talk in general. You can check these details later if you want. And for sure, like factory, it's some kind of like also a good creational design pattern, quite often used in the project. I would say a lot of creational design patterns are popular and like basic for understanding. And mostly during the interviews, people like and candidates can answer exactly and provide some info regarding creational design patterns. So in such case, yeah, like you try to separate like object creation from its usage. You can create some unified like interface, and in such case, like your client code base, like which we will use your client API, like it will rely on some abstractions, on some interface, and it doesn't matter like what exactly is done in terms of like implementation, which object was created. Yeah, like it cares regarding interface, and it doesn't care regarding like what exactly it got. So like, as I said, object creation will be also concept encapsulated. Yeah, like we will rely on interface. However, as I already said, yeah, like design patterns also not the best thing for everything. So maybe if you have like small project or just really simple project, maybe you don't even need factory, because of course all the design patterns is some kind of new abstraction, some stuff that you need to manage, and it can affect as well. Usage, when we can use factory, like let's imagine that you have like different email providers like SendGrid, maybe some based on Node.js, maybe just regular like SMTP and so on. And in such case, that you can create maybe some factory method, which based on criteria will define which exactly provider you should choose. Yeah, like will be it SendGrid or any other provider. And in such case, like if you need to switch just between providers, like you can implement every provider, then you can use this factory method and just distribute like which exactly provider will be used right now. So it can be based, maybe on some configuration, some variable, environment variable, and you can easily switch between email providers. Of course, like for some email providers to make unified interface, maybe you need to implement some, let's say, another design pattern, like maybe adapter to adapt same and use same interface. Yeah, because like of course every email provider has some specific interface, and you need like to make some universal interface. However, like maybe adapter design pattern about which we will talk a bit later can be useful for you. And just I would say like small sample. Also, you can like explore it more afterwards. Yeah, for instance, you have some kind of transaction, like then you have like some payment transaction, you have like some refund transaction, and in such case, like you can create just simple factory with create transaction, and based on type, it will like define different payment. Yeah, like or it will be payment transaction, or it will be like refund transaction. And if you will have like any other type, you just need to have like same interface, and you can like extend, add more and more. So it's quite useful when you have a lot of providers of something, like a lot of similar stuff which can be replaced. So really good use case. Let's move on. One more creation design pattern, prototype. I would say all of you hopefully know like regarding prototype inheritance in JavaScript. And everyone understands what is prototype inheritance and why it's not like classical inheritance. Yeah, because like once you have prototype, it means that you all the time, like once you will create some like child class, or like you will like reuse some prototype, it means that you just will make a link. Yeah, like you will use object linked to other object approach. So in most of another languages, like once you will extend some parent class by child class, it means that you will like create instance of a child class, of course, create instance of parent class. And in JavaScript, you don't create instance of parent class all the time, because in such case you will just like make a link to this parent, and that's it. So a current prototype, I would say, is exactly like related to prototype inheritance, and how we can build like some new project, a new object based on another object. That we can clone some behavior, like, and in such case, we don't need to create some new instance. We can reuse same instance, but you need also to understand, yeah, like if you create some link to such prototype, all the time you need to think regarding state, because state is quite important stuff. Like, and if you share some state and you will do some modification prototype, it will also affect like some your another child objects. So all the time, like, please just keep in mind. So this was a part related to creation of design patterns, and like we covered some of them, like builder, singleton, factory, prototype. Yeah, like there are also some more, but this one is really popular. Yeah, like one of them is used like in even our JavaScript inheritance. One is quite popular when you implement some, like third parties, like another even works under the hood in Node.js as well. Like, and builder quite useful if you need to make some complex object creations and so on. And just like personal recommendation, like you can like explore these patterns if you haven't used them. If you have used, it's amazing. Like, can just keep on doing. But yeah, like design pattern, understanding theory is one thing, but like understand in practice and exactly go like and based on your project, try to think, okay, like maybe I implemented something similar to design pattern, like which I already know, yeah, or maybe like I need to implement such feature, and sounds like this design pattern can be a good way to go. So design pattern is good stuff, but only in connection to real like business task, to real business feature domain, yeah, without like it just, I would say, like theory, and doesn't make sense for us at all. Good. Yeah. And sometimes like you all the time you need to understand why like you use this design pattern, and don't implement design pattern because you want to try. Yeah, like don't do it. Yeah, just really understand what you need to resolve, and only after try to go like and check what can be useful for you, not vice versa, not coding just for fun, like on production projects, like for only for your purpose, if you want to try on or check what's going on. Great. Let's move to next stage, and it will be related to structural design patterns. If our creation of design patterns, it was everything related to how we manage our object creation, how we can done it in better way, and structural, I would say, it's next stage. And right now we need to understand, okay, like we have some objects, we have created some objects, we have like some classes, and we need to understand how we can manage them, how we can like connect to them, like how we can make some structure based on such objects. And exactly, structured design patterns can help you to resolve this composition and interaction problems. Let's move on to some of them, like called adapter. Adapter, I would say, also really popular design pattern, and like is used exactly once you want to create some unified interface, but you don't have such interface. Maybe you have your current code-based implementation and you want to integrate some new library. And okay, like you don't know how to do it because like interface is quite different. In such case, you can look into adapter approach. What I mean, yeah, like you have your current code base implementation, like you have some new third party which you want to implement, like you try to compare like interface, what you have right now, what you need to have like in this third party. And finally, after it, like you need to create some kind of wrapper, yeah, like some adapter, which can adapt your like new third party to work with your project. It can be temporary, can be persistent, and of course, there's a lot of different business cases. But for sure, it's really useful. And like honestly say, like I use it a lot once you need to integrate something new in quite like old code base, or like code base which is currently on production, and you can't like change easily like interface because like it will break all existing integrations. So you just create an adapter. Yeah, so exactly, it's really great for compatibility. And of course, as all design patterns, it can like add to some complexity and performance. So if you implement just like some specific integration and you don't expect to have like some other adapters, you don't expect some new integration afterwards at all, yeah, like maybe it's not also design pattern which you need to work with and play with, yeah, like in your code base. In general, regarding like adapter, you can see exactly like this image. So like once you have some kind of socket and you are traveling to another country and you have another type like of socket, you need like to use some special adapter, yeah, like socket adapter, and it will adapt like your not supportable interface to interface which can be used in your code base. So like really just easy and good image to remember what is adapter about. Let's move on. Maybe like just some small code sample. Like in such case, we have like transaction, we have like legacy payment processor, like, and we have legacy payment adapter. So in such case, like once we want like to process our transaction, like we don't directly deal with our transaction, but we use like some extra layer called like adapter, which can like take our like transaction and like make our payment exactly in that way how we can do it in terms of interface. So you can like explore and check this sample in details, but I would say like the best way is just to deal with some real use case during your project. And if you have worked with any like more than 2-3 providers, I think you somehow maybe implemented something like adapter, some similar. Maybe you have done some wrapper and you honestly don't know that like it's exactly like adapter, yeah, because just said, okay, like I have some third party, I need to use it somehow in code base, and it like I don't care like how it will be named and so on. But exactly, it's all about adapter patterns, so quite often used. Another one like called proxy, I would say a bit related like to adapter, how it works. Due to the case it is also about wrapper, and in such case proxy is like regular proxy. I guess guys like who are dealing with backend development like understand exactly what's going on as well. So in general, can be used to make some like access management, but like I think there are a lot of frameworks from both like front end backend side which has some kind of proxy implementation under the hood when you need like to encapsulate your logic and put some more layer of abstraction, and such layer of abstraction can deal with like access management, maybe with some like lazy loading of data and so on. Like use cases are quite like simple. If you know, like you have some like entity, like maybe to deal with your transaction, and someone can like someone can create transactions, someone can like approve transactions. So based on like extra layer of abstraction called proxy, you can like separate these layers and like understand and manage who exactly can create transaction, who can approve, decline transaction, and so on. Quite useful pattern as well, and I would say used a lot of, especially like in many frameworks. And decorator, not the new pattern for, I would say, everyone. Yeah, like everyone should be aware of decorator, especially if you like work with TypeScript. So all the time, like I guess you work with some Node.js framework, or Angular, for instance, on front end. Definitely you are dealing with a lot of decorators, and the main purpose is quite simple. Yeah, like I want to extend the behavior of something. Yeah, like if you talk about some ORM for querying, like we use decorator. Like once we, for instance, create some schema, how we work with our table, we can create some decorator for like field. Say, okay, it will be like primary key, and or it will be not nullable, and so on, so on. Yeah, like so, just like some special interface which allows you to encapsulate logic and by some like decorator keyboard, and then like easily add this behavior to new structures, like for instance, in our case, to new object ORM entities, and so on. So decorator, like I think, also understandable and useful for everyone. Composite pattern, also good to mention, like maybe for some people can be a new pattern. And the main thing regarding this pattern, it's exactly to manage some complex structures. Once you have maybe some file system, or you have like a lot of components, you make some composition of like such components. If you go like to simple example, yeah, like you can see, like we create several transactions, and then we use some like group to make a composition of such transaction. Yeah, like exactly case when you have like some single entities and you need to create some complex structure. In such case, just like one group. But after it, like you can easily manage like these transactions just by like a group, somehow like go and iterate them, like create some special accessors and so on. Especially is really used once you deal with file systems. But still, if you need to create some complex structure, especially like maybe tree structure, like composite, like can be a really good design pattern to consider. If it's quite often in terms of implementation, I wouldn't say like so, but at least to understand what's going on and like where it can be used, maybe you'll have more specific case. Definitely it's good to try and understand why. Great. So we covered in such case, like also design patterns related to structural design patterns. And as I said previously, creational is exactly like how we want to handle with object creation, and structural, how we want to handle our organization of such abstractions, how to have a bigger structure. So adapter quite often is used to adapt some third party. Proxy, like to make some maybe access management, like maybe some login, can be also other use cases, but often is used like so. Decorator to extend behavior of some stuff without need like to rewrite or make some wrapper all the time. Like for instance, in many like frameworks, TypeScript-based frameworks, you can create like decorators to say, okay, like it will be controller, or it will be like a service, and it will automatically add some behavior. Maybe it will be like some singleton already, and so on, so on. So widely used really often, and all the time I would say like you need to know decorator for sure. This one not so often used. Maybe like some of you has experience, but yeah, not really like so I would say quite widely used. Good. And finally, like I would say, we reached third group. Like hopefully, still you are alive and you are not sleeping. Yeah, like for sure. In some cases, like here a lot of information regarding design patterns, not the best thing you want to do, but at least like these basics which I mentioned during our presentation, and hopefully like this presentation will be shared. You can check some samples. You can go like and try to try to implement by yourself. It's really, I would say, really great practice to implement maybe in your pet project, maybe on production. You see a really great use case. So in such case, you really like will know this design pattern, and at least like once you will go to some interview and someone will ask some questions regarding design patterns, it will not be so big issues for you, and you will not be like you will not suffer. What is this man is going about? Like I'm just implemented a great code base and that's it. But yeah, like you need to know it, like at least on basic level, understand it. So let's move on to third part, and yeah, like let's make some resume what we have for now. Yeah. And third stage, let's talk regarding some behavioral design patterns. And in such case, yeah, like we had structure, we had some like we had creational, we had structure, and we have this category. So right now we want to deal, okay, like we know how to create objects, how like we can create singleton, how we can easily encapsulate our object creation, how make our object creation in more visible way. We know how to adapt alt API based on structural adapter, like, or how we can like add more level of complexity, like with proxy, with some behavior by decorator. And also like let's talk regarding another thing, and how we can communicate in terms of objects, how we can like make some maybe event-driven approach, more like how we can understand that something changed in one object and we should rely like and make some adjustments in another object. So in such case, we will talk regarding also relations, but more on object level. Yeah, like not the case once you just want to wrap something, adopt something, but the case that you have already some entities, like created entities, and you need somehow to group them. Just maybe one note, yeah, like some design patterns, you can get feeling that they can be related like to more than one group, and that's also, I would say, acceptable, because yeah, like some of them, like I would say, has same features as different design pattern categories. So let's talk and move on. So regarding this type, I would say like right now we will make a short journey regarding quite often used design patterns in Node.js itself, in JavaScript. And yeah, like first one is observer. Like I think everyone used observer, like at least once he worked or she worked with event emitter model. Like once you emit some event, you subscribe on this event, exactly like you create some observer. It's also a good question to understand good question and good exercise for you to understand better observer. Try like to create some event emitter mechanism, but based on your own. Yeah, like that you will have some observer, you will have like some observable, and just see how it will look like. In such case, yeah, like it's easy to manage connection between objects. Yeah, like you can easily create some new subscriber and just or drop subscriber, and really like a good way to go. And especially used in like inter-process communications as well. Yeah, like once you create maybe like some child process, you communicate between like child process, master process, you can send like events between them and like pass some data. So it's also regarding such approach, but like let's see when it can be a better way to go. So first of all, like if you have some not registered observers, you can have memory problems, and that's why I would say like in general, any stacked object is a bad one, and observer is also not really the great stuff to do. And for sure, like if there will be a lot of updates, a lot of changes on your like observer, in such case, like maybe it's not also like the best thing to have, but other cases quite acceptable. And really observer, I would say, used everywhere, like, and one of basic patterns in Node.js and JavaScript itself. Iterator, like everyone understands, should understand iterator, like maybe at least like you definitely have worked with arrays, with maybe some you implemented linked list and you create some own iterator interface. But it's also like related to iterable. So like in such case that we can like go through some items without details what's going on, like I don't know, maybe make some format changes and so on, like quite useful in JavaScript. And lovely and old, and I would say a bit related to old, like not old, but not so famous frameworks for now. Partially, like yeah, like only partially, yeah, like I wouldn't say that it's exactly a representation of such pattern, but somehow it seems like it's the middleware in ExpressConf frameworks. And in such case, like you can have like some chain objects, chain of functions, which take care of some specific like request of some specific case, and you have like single responsibility for every such chain. But like for sure there are also pitfalls, some problems. Yeah, like one of famous middleware problem is exactly like state mutations that, like, you know, look, I don't know, you did something in one middleware, then you made some adjustment in another middleware, like then once more in third middleware, and so on and so on. And finally, once you will debug your code base, you understand that, okay, you are going to business logic, and you understand that all magic is done in middlewares in this chain of responsibility, and you need to debug like every step, understand what's going on, and especially if it's shared middleware, it can be really a big pain. So all the time, like if you work with some like ExpressConf frameworks, like please don't put business logic at all. Yeah, like try to not I would say to overuse this approach. Yeah, like every design patterns and or every approach can be good, but all the time think twice which benefits and which disadvantages you will reach. Yeah, like don't create it, don't do it just if it's similar to what usually people do like on a project, like try to reach and create some proper code structure. So yeah, like of course, as I said, share some state mutation can be problematic. Also, some unhandled requests. If you haven't implemented your error management right, it can also cause some problems. And let's cover also some more until we have time. Like this one facade is quite useful. And I would say like it sounds like some kind of service layer where you want like to hide your complex, maybe logic, some complex stuff just by providing some like client interface. Yeah, like, you know, maybe you have some transaction management, like with a lot of quite complex flows, and you just create some facade. And in such case, you encapsulate all logic like in your facade, in your service, and just like expose to other types, other code base only like some generalized method. Yeah, like, you know, maybe create a deposit transaction and it will do like everything for you, like create withdraw transaction, create like maybe a refund. And in such case, you don't need to deal with everything like what's going on under the hood. You don't need to recreate your code base all the time. So from my perspective, facade is really useful when you implement like your business logic, you are creating some services and so on. But just one thing, of course, you need to know, like if you create some, like universal client interface, you need to make your code base more universal, more generalized, and it means you need to handle more cases. So in comparison, like if you have some method called like create deposit transaction, maybe like in one business flow create deposit transaction, it should be like only 2 operations, like 2 maybe some data inserts, and like another it will be 3, 4. Like, and if you will encapsulate it, you need to think that, of course, like you will add some extra checks and so on and so on. But definitely, like maybe in some cases, just direct implementation without generalized interface, it can be better for you in terms of performance. So of course, Facade recommend to use like for some, like you're dealing with complex integrations, you're dealing like maybe with some database access management. So to encapsulate it and to check and use afterwards, just like as some unified kind interface, it's really like good stuff to do. Yeah, like let's imagine we have, of course, we have like a file store, like already promises approach, but let's see just sample. Yeah, like for instance, let's imagine that we use like some old file like store, and in such case, like we create some facade which will like encapsulate some logic, maybe like make some read file with some exact format, maybe do some extra stuff, and afterwards, like we just call this method as a set. So you create maybe some client libraries which can be reused through all your project. Facade is like really great pattern which can be useful for you. So definitely I recommend to everyone. Comment also a bit related to Facade, but like I would say main difference that is handling exactly some bigger structure, and not only I would say it like set of abstractions to encapsulate like some logic, but it has also state. And in comment, you can maybe like you can have such special comments like to process with some data, or like roll back to prior state. So the comment is more related like to some state, to some ability to go faster or go back. So when it's useful, like of course, like if you deal with some maybe network requests and you encapsulate like your request and response in some like context, and like basis context you can send, you can like do some actions, and you can maybe another some cases when you need to do some like do undo mechanisms. Definitely comment can be good for you, but for sure, like as this pattern should store some like, state, some like use some consume more memory, like can be increased to memory stage, can be like too complex for some use cases. So definitely I recommend to check it out, but yeah, like also you need to think if you really need it or not. Okay, let's a bit speed up. Strategy, I would say, like once a lot of people worked with passport library, like authentication library, you remember like some Facebook strategy, some Google strategy, like some local strategy, and so on, so on. In such case, like it's like your ability to easily switch between like different implementations. Somehow, like strategy design pattern like can be correlated like partially to factory, because like sounds a bit similar. Yeah, like that you have some wrappers that you need easily like to switch between a lot of stuff. So regarding like strategy, like also let me show just some quick sample. Let's imagine like you have different sort algorithms. Of course, I don't expect that you like you need to do it all the time. You will not do this business case, yeah. But it can be other algorithm, can be other approach. So in such case, like let's imagine you have like some kind of sorter, and once you create your sorter, yeah, like you have some set strategy method, you have like some sort method, and you can like use encapsulation. what I mean. Yeah, like you can just like create this interface of some sorter, which will like take some strategy and run the strategy. That's it. Yeah, like we don't need anything else. And every strategy should has like same interface like of our sorting strategy. It should implement like some sort mechanism. Of course, it can be like it will be different algorithms, but you can easily switch from one strategy to another. Like same as maybe someone remember regarding passport. Like you have one Google strategy, you have like just a local strategy, and yeah, like you just fit into your passport middleware like this strategy, and I would say implementation of your authentication can be like really simplified in such case, and like how you manage them, how you change from one to another. So really like a good pattern and used quite often even in such cases. Good. And some more like, yes, you see behavioral patterns a lot. And the main reason why we have a lot of behavioral patterns, because like we want to modify behavior a lot. Yeah, like you need to make your objects work a bit differently, like in another manner. You need to make some new connection between objects. So all the time it's good to consider. Next one is state. Yeah, like state can be great pattern when we need like to manage some complex states like transaction state, like transaction status, for instance. And in such case, like you have like some pending state, you have some processing state, cancel, approved, and so on, so on. Like I would say like also can be quite useful. Like for instance, in our case, it's just like sample of how it can be done in terms of transactions. So like that you can switch between different states, like some pending state, completed state. Like you have you first like implement one state, then you can like change state by some set state method. Of course, in terms of like front-end engineers, quite useful design patterns, and I guess you understand how often it's used, and like like dealing with state on UI side is all the time really like important stuff in terms of dealing with data. So quite useful, especially in front end, I would say. And let's cover last one, visitor. Like honestly saying, from my experience, like I have never used visitor. So really interesting pattern, and like I wouldn't say that like haven't used in terms of my like proper understanding of visitor. Yeah, but like definitely you have used just for some stuff, even if you haven't known regarding this pattern. Because visitor in general is just like some, I would say, modificator. Like let's imagine we have like different types of transactions, like payment transaction, refund, transfer, just a transfer transaction. And we want to make some visitor. What does it mean? Like visitor, usually it's some kind of like maybe extra behavior, like extra logic, which we want temporary put for our current object. Yeah, like our object, of course, it already has some functionality. It has some stuff to deal with, but we want like partially add some behavior, maybe like one time, like you need to make some formatting, or you need just add one more method, but you don't want to make extensions of such class, like make some new object and so on, so on. Yeah, like you no need to implement such complex abstractions, like just maybe some visitor which can deal like with different types of transactions. Like okay, like it's like really human visitor. Yeah, like I will visit you, do some stuff, and like that's it. Yeah, like I don't need to take care of your behavior anymore. So maybe I will just like make some format, maybe like I will make some counting, and that's it. Yeah, useful in database queries, like once we like maybe need to add one more stuff to existing query, or like useful in API responses, because in such case, like you need to deal with a lot of like success, like unauthorized server error responses, and like exactly in such case you can like create just visitor which will like do exactly one stuff based on your like status code, based on your response. Okay, so quite huge category of behavioral patterns. And let's just like a bit organize our information. So like we covered structural related to object creation, we cover creational related to object creation, sorry. Structural related to connection between like classes, like some adaptation of classes, and we like covered behavioral patterns. Yeah, like behavior quite a big category, and really used anywhere, like observer, iterator, chain of responsibility, all the time. Good to mention during the interview, and need to know facade is quite useful in terms of like your implementation and like your business logic encapsulation. Command can be like good when you need to deal with some like do undo stuff, especially strategy great like when you need to switch between like different approaches of something, maybe of some algorithm, of some like authentication method. State if you need like to implement some state management, and visitor when you need like to add temporary some behavior to some like existing object. Yeah, like that you don't want to make some adaptation, you don't want to make some, I don't know, child class initialize to separate object, because like, you know, it's just one simple method, one simple line of logic. Like you have, for instance, dealing with responses, like, okay, I will deal with 200 like this, like authentic, not authorized like this, and so on, so on. And yeah, like let me finish a bit. Like final notes. First of all, like regarding design patterns, you can like implement a lot. You can implement for any case, but think what are really what are really we are doing. Yeah, because in such case, like if you create a lot of made to design the patterns, just you want to try it, like you're really encouraged. Okay, like I heard about visitor, I heard about like some facade and so on, so on, so on. Like, and right now I need to go to a code base, say like to my colleagues, okay, like let's do this one all the time. Try like to emphasize on your feature, like what you're doing, what you want to achieve, what is your problem. Yeah, like try to understand your abstractions, what you have right now, what will be your future. So it should be extended, or it will be just one use case and that's it. But of course, don't make this Trojan horse, which will bring more problems for you, and you will not get so many benefits. Yeah, like all the time, please think about it and do everything in smart way, like not technology for technology. Technology is only about like resolving some business purpose, some business features to make some domain better. It's exactly like the main target. And like design patterns is more regarding to help us to resolve business task, and not vice versa, to make business task more complex or not extendable, because we wanted to play with a lot of design patterns. Okay, great. So, and two small topics from my perspective, like notes and summary. As I said, like definitely you have used design patterns in your code base, like maybe under the hood, maybe you have implemented something and you don't even know that it's really like some design pattern and can be like formalized, maybe just based on better interface. Also like to follow or not follow design patterns also based on you. If I say that it's really a best practice, increase code quality and so on, it doesn't mean that like you need to do and like, you know, take all design patterns in your project and try to argue with your teammates that you need to make some design pattern. Yeah, like just think if it's useful for you or not, like which benefits or disadvantages it will bring. Yes, so make your choice smartly. But what I can recommend is all the time just to know some basic design patterns, like some creational, some structural, some behavioral, just to make sure that you have no problems in terms of theory, in terms of like maybe some practical experience. Because like, yeah, all the time you can handle with different projects, with different companies, and in some projects maybe it's not so important. Some project like maybe team is more already relies on some design patterns, and it's important for them like that you will understand these design patterns as well. Yeah, like because in such case, if you go like, you know, to some project, they describe, okay, like we have dependency injection, like we have some adapters to deal with third parties, we have this one, this one. You're already aware what they are talking about, and not just, oh my god, what are these guys, what these guys wants from me, like I don't know nothing. Yeah, so just to be in the good level of like engineering skills. Yeah, like you don't need to know everything. Like, of course, it's good to know a lot, yeah, but it's like algorithms. Yeah, like maybe you will not use it so often, but at least on high level, to maybe some past technical interview where there is some kind of design patterns questions. It's good to know and to not be frustrated. So like, because honestly saying, like I made a lot of technical interviews, like general technical interviews specific for projects and so on. And unfortunately, like still it's quite hard topic for many candidates. And unfortunately, it can lead also like to rejects, because, you know, basics of theory, basics of understanding, yeah, like no one, I would say, will ask you, please create some diagram how it works. I would say it's rare case, but at least like describe how it works, how you can implement this factory, how you can implement Singleton. It's really good to understand. And even if you deal with regular like require, and if you don't know that it's based on Singleton, like, and how it works in general, yeah, like you can have many problems with state changes and so on. So it's not only about theory, it's also about practice, but like my thoughts. So yeah, I just wanted to double check with you that use proper design pattern based on a feature, not vice versa. Like don't, it's like my just personal understanding, like my personal thoughts, like don't use framework if you don't think that this framework is good for a project. Don't use this database or like, you know, super technology if you have like small project. Maybe some simpler and more universal stuff is good for you. So all the time ask a question to yourself, like good and bad parts. Otherwise, like, of course you will try, you will balance without fail, you will not understand that you are doing right. Yeah, but all the time, like, at least try to think regarding what you need to resolve. And last one, yeah, like design patterns can be good blocker, can be good mechanisms to prevent some like some not right decisions of how to organize code base. Like it can be not just I would say enemy to you once you deal with like, okay, like interview and you need to describe something. It can be also good stuff because it can help you to organize your code base in better manner, like to resolve some complex project tasks, to organize a lot of entities, because, you know, it's like some bureaucracy. Like without bureaucracy, you can't organize process. Yeah, like if everything is too, I would say, too linear, too simple in one day, like once you will have complex project, it will fail for you. Yeah, because you can't extend it anymore. That's why you can see that after some POC phase, a lot of projects need to be refactored, changed, and so on. And like finally, some conclusion. Yeah, as I said, there are a lot of under the hood patterns used in Node.js, and I mentioned during our webinar. Feel free to explore like this presentation, go like into some like there are also a lot of books like Node.js design patterns, and definitely like can recommend this one. Because like I remember there are good samples how to implement like working with modules, how to implement event emitter and other patterns which are common in Node.js. Also, yeah, like design patterns can help you to have better code base, more stable and scalable. So it's exactly the case once you moved away from just small startup to bigger project, you need to think about it more and more. Otherwise, in one day, you can't handle such amount of new customers. Every customer will say, okay, like if you have even B2B business, yeah, like let's imagine you are creating some maybe ad tech platform for some customers. Like some customers wants to have like such functionality and others this one, and need to handle more and more like different interfaces, different integrations. And you see that, oh my God, like in one day, I can't just handle this stuff. I need to change all my code base. I need to refactor all my service. So it's exactly time when maybe like you need to ask this question to yourself. And sounds like, okay, the partners need to use every day, like try to understand better, good. But yeah, every abstraction can lead to some performance down, like can lead to some issues in performance. So maybe it's like, to create some row loop or like based on some like reduce map and filter. So in some cases, like it's not a big deal and better to make code more understandable. But maybe in some cases you need to optimize as much as possible. And creation of design pattern, like to use, for instance, one strategy, like without switch between different strategies, it doesn't make sense. Maybe like you need to optimize as much as possible, and every new object for you, it matters. So in such case, you need to think maybe you don't need any design patterns, and even like you don't need maybe object-oriented style, maybe more functional approach can work for you better. So always think not just about code readability, but also how like good or bad your code in terms of performance. And yeah, like I would say, as all the time, like engineers say that, and solution architects say, everything should be based on your use case, based on your requirements, like what is more important for your requirements, or like readability, like how it can be extended, or still performance. So like explore more design patterns, look into it, try more, like tell and say question to yourself, do I need it or not? So just can encourage to do that in the future. Yeah, like definitely makes sense. Good. So like let's move on. Like, and I guess right now, like we will organize some question and answer session. Mariana, like I guess we will have some time, like several minutes, and everyone can try to write some question. And if I can, like I will try to respond to you. Definitely, like maybe some practical questions can be interested in, maybe like something you want to know about, like design patterns, general technical stuff, like what I can share, maybe something related to interview you're also interested in. So feel free to ask, and I guess right now make some time to make these questions. Right, Mariana?
Yes, Alexei, thank you for your lecture. And now we have one question. Nest.js must have for Node.js developers. Is it as flexible as Express?
Good question. And I would say, like, as I told to you, everything based what you need. Like Nest.js is great because yeah, like you have already some structure, you have already the proper layers organized. But overall, I wouldn't say like that you need Nest.js for every project, and you need to use it all the time and skip on Express. Yeah, like of course Nest.js, it's one more layer of abstraction based on Express or Fastify. It's based how you configured. And in such case, like I would recommend at least to explore, like to know how Express works, how core works, like as even simpler version, how Nest.js, loopback, Fastify, maybe quite simple one. at least understand on high level like how it works and which structure you have. But what is better, like I wouldn't say that like Nest.js is better in all the time or Express is better in all the time. Even that's why like a framework is some help for you and nothing more. So if you know, great. Like if you don't know, but you're an expert like in raw HTTP work in Node.js and you haven't worked with frameworks, that's also fine. I don't see any issues. Yeah, like if you understand all concepts, Node.js for you will be quite simple. So both of them are acceptable based on your use case.
Thank you. Pavlo just commented that Express is not flexible. It's horrible.
No, I wouldn't also say like based on what you want to achieve, like why is like Express not flexible? If based on what you implemented, like on Express only can be, you know, in middlewares maybe some basic formatters, some controller, and that's it. Like other stuff, it's not related to Express at all. So you should implement your code base in proper layer structure. You should have like proper at least like a 3-layer structure, and you have like a data layer represented by some repositories. You have maybe a business logic layer related to services, for instance. Yeah, like you have controllers, and only on high level you deal with some framework. On other levels, you should be agnostic. It's exactly like, yes, that you are not dependent on like other levels, and you know, maybe today you are using some HTTP framework, and next day you will you understand, okay, I don't need it, I need to use Message Broker. So I wouldn't say that like Express is paying, like any other framework is paying, like that Nest.js you need to use all the time. Not really, like just what you want. And if you have implemented your code structure properly, even the smallest framework, or even like working with some net module in Node.js, it can be acceptable. Even, yeah, maybe just also one more comment regarding huge frameworks. It's one also disadvantage of like quite big frameworks or frameworks with predefined structure, because in such case, like if you need maybe some specific like strategy, some specific more interface, like not so often, but for instance, like I had some issues once was dealing with Nest and like gRPC connection, and I needed like to make some custom adapter for this purpose. So in some cases, it can be even harder to extend based on predefined and big framework.
We have the next question from Sergio. Could the middleware also be included in the proxy pattern, or are they two different concepts?
I would say like proxy pattern. If like switch back to this pattern itself, like it's exactly like related to requests. So this is like the context and request response, how like it's encapsulated. It can be related to proxy pattern, not like how we exactly like run one function after another, yeah, like chain of responsibility, but this like context or request response object a bit similar to proxy.
Thank you for your answers, Alexei. For now, nothing new in our chat. Let's wait maybe a couple of minutes.
Yeah, sure. And don't be scared, like just a picture, nothing more. I will not find you.
Okay, one more question we have. Which tools additionally I can use to secure auth process on my Node.js server, except usage of by crypt.js, if I read it right, JW token, and MySquare's protection.
Can you maybe like just send this question to me? Like, to understand better context?
Yeah, sure.
Because like last phrases, like unfortunately can't understand. Okay, so yeah, it's oh my God, I need to deal with it. Okay, so in general, like I would say you need to secure application on all layers, like starting from network layer until you're dealing with some database and so on. Like, so first of all, you need to understand like if you are okay in terms of network, like if you don't expose like your endpoints to everyone, especially your documentation, like that your documentation, if you have some Swagger API, like it's protected. Also, like if you can like create some whitelist, like create some block list for suspicious stuff, like make firewall, like make isolation of your resources, like database, and so on, as much isolated as possible, so it can be accessible only for your service. So proper permission management is also important. Yeah, like so I would start with network layer. And regarding like deeper stuff, yeah, like you said about JSON Web Token, it's also a good approach, but you need to implement it in the right way with expirable token. Like also you need to validate this token in the right way. And about you need to make sure that you are good in terms of API protection. So like maybe you have like JVT, and in such case, like maybe you need like some extra stuff, like maybe you can create like private public encryption, like that, you know, you can create some hash and also compare your hash like with based on like private key and like using public key to verify this stuff. So like yeah, so you need also to take care like how your data is can be accessed. Use JVT. You can like work with database, and you can use any other library, not only MySQL queries, like any ORM, ODM, or query builder. And I would say it's not so big problem right now, because everything like is easily can be cleaned. And just make sure also I would say one of the most important, and unfortunately a lot of guys like forget about it, is how you implement your permission management. So make sure that no one like can access your data more than he should. So like I would say I will add only these recommendations, and you can go like to some specifics and check OWASP recommendation top 12, top 10, and it should like you can go through every topic specifically. Okay, good. Next question I see, which tools additionally I can use to secure Node.js. Okay, it's the previous one. When is better to use those in pipes or in middleware? If we use next, in middleware. Good question. And like as honestly saying, like can be that middleware can be quite acceptable based on only what you want. Like if you just want to like validate something and that's it, like middleware can be acceptable. But honestly, the best way to implement authentication, I would have some separate like our service, yeah, like maybe some facade, which will take care with your security. And in such case, once you will make some request, you already extract data from your framework and just pass into the service, and the service will exactly like do all magic for you, what you will program. And like I wouldn't put into any abstraction specific framework, because in one day, if you will like move from one framework to another, you need to recreate how you deal with authentication, and it's not really recommended way.
So we don't have any new questions. Alexei, thanks once more for your presentation, for answering to all the questions we had. And thank you all the visitors for coming and for joining us today. We will be glad to see you on our next webinars. So have a nice end of the day, and see you all next time.
Yeah, thank you very much. Like, I wish you all the best, and don't be scared. Just try, just explore more, and hopefully, like, this small picture of my dog, like, will make your rest of the day a bit better.